Hey guys, hey, this is Anne Marie of the AntiHR Consultancy, and this is the AntiHR channel. On this channel, I talk to employees about workplace rights and how to assert those rights if they believe they're being violated. I believe that an educated employee is the best defense against workplace shenanigans. So if that's of interest to you, please hit that like button, subscribe button, comment, and share this video with a friend. So in this video, I want to talk about interview red flags. So in my last video, I talked to you about questions that you should ask in the interview process. In this video, I want to give you a couple more red flags, and I will link the first video I did about red flags in the description of this video. But I'm going to talk about a couple more red flags that if you notice these things during the interview process, head for the hills. Withdraw. Remove yourself expeditiously, because this is telling you that this is not a place that you want to work. The first red flag that I'm going to mention, and before I get into the red flags, there is a blog post about this now live on my website that you can take a look at that tells you 10 red flags. I'm just going to mention 4 of them here, and the others you can read about in the blog post, which is linked to the description of this video. So please make sure that you go to my website. If you haven't subscribed already, please do that, and then read the blog post, okay? And if you enjoy this blog post and this video, please share it with people that you think need this information. I know a lot of people are trying to jump ship from jobs. People are interviewing for jobs. There's a lot of upheaval in the United States job market right now. And so you want to put your best foot forward and you want to make good decisions. You don't want to jump from the frying pan into the fire. So here is some red flags that you need to look out for when you are interviewing for a new job. Red flag number 1, vague, evasive answers. Okay? When you ask direct questions in an interview, and you should be asking questions as we discussed in a previous video, you should get clear answers. So if you feel that the person that is interviewing you is giving you evasive answers, they're not answering questions directly, that's a red flag. If they tell you things like, we're still working that out, or we're still thinking that through, or we haven't yet decided, that is not flexibility, that's chaos, okay? And that's a big red flag and a big no-no. The next red flag is if you notice a disorganized or what I call a disrespectful interview process. When someone is interviewing you, they are literally trying to do a full court press to get you to join their team. So this is the best that they're ever going to behave. So if you are seeing disrespect and disorganization in the interview process, that's a big red flag that you should take seriously. So here are some examples of what I mean by that. Ghosting, last minute changes, last minute cancellations, disorganized person at the interview who clearly hasn't gotten their questions together that they want to ask you, people who act disinterested during the interview process. They're not looking at you when you're talking, they're looking out the window, they're not really paying attention to what's happening in the room. These are all examples of disorganized and disrespectful interview process. If you experience any of that, immediately withdraw. How to withdraw? Simply say, I've decided that this is not the best fit for me, or I'm no longer available for this job. Thank you so much for your interest in me. Good luck, God bless. Withdraw. When you experience disorganization and disrespect in the interview process, that tells you everything you need to know about an employer, and what it is telling you is to head for the hills. So that's what you need to do. The next red flag is if you do not get an opportunity to meet the person who will be your direct manager. If the person who is going to be your supervisor is not a part of the interview process, that is a concern and that is a red flag. The person who is going to supervise you on a day-to-day basis, give you work instructions, and evaluate your performance should be a part of your interview process. And if they are not, that is a clear red flag and something that you should take seriously as a sign that this might not be a good situation for you. I would also add that if the person who's going to be your direct supervisor is not present in the interview, you should ask why. And unless the person is hospitalized, there's actually no reason for them not to be there. And even if they're not hospitalized, or if they are hospitalized, then maybe they shouldn't be interviewing anybody till they come back. I really think that not interviewing with the person who's going to be your supervisor, it should be a dead on arrival situation. You absolutely should not agree to take a job where you did not get to meet the person that would be your boss before you accepted the job and during the interview process. And the last red flag that I want to mention is if you notice an avoidance of discussions of work schedule, salary, or benefits during the interview process, big red flag. You should ask all the questions you want to ask about work schedule, about your benefits package, and about salary expectations, okay? And if you cannot get a direct answer, that should be a red flag. For example, you should have clarity at a minimum about what the salary range is for the position. Honestly, it's ideal if you get that before, but you definitely want to get that in the interview. You also want to ask questions, as I told you in the last video, about work schedule and work-life balance. And you want to ask questions about the benefits. What kind of benefits are you receiving? How much leave do you get, etc. Do not accept a situation where you do not get complete, coherent answers to those questions. Anything less than a direct answer that satisfies you should be a red flag that this is probably not going to be a good situation. You also want to make sure that you ask about remote work options, especially if this is a job that is advertised as being a remote work job. And again, you want direct answers. And you want to make sure, I'm going to just throw this in here for you, that they put it all in writing. So if they say that it's a remote job, make sure your letter of hire says that the job is remote and how many days a week that you get to work. It's 100% remote. It should say that in your hire letter. And anything that is not written down does not exist. So if they are telling you that it's remote, they should answer all your questions about remote work schedule, who gets to decide to change your schedule, how does that happen, etc. But you want to get all those details. So if you ask questions about salary, work schedule, including remote work, benefits, right? Work-life balance. If you can't get a direct answer, you should be concerned. Anything like, we can get to that later, we'll send you more information, we're still working that out, are non-answers. And those are big red flags. And I'm going to throw one more in as a bonus for you guys, but the rest of these, you should go read the blog post. A rushed hiring process is a very big red flag. If you interview today and they offer you the job tomorrow, that's not because you're such a great candidate. It might be desperation, and you don't want to be hired just because they're trying to find a warm body to throw into a position. So a rushed hiring process is a red flag. So if you're hired within 24 hours, you're hired without meeting your manager, you're hired without meeting other key decision makers, you're hired without even having a full interview, that's a red flag, and you should be very, very concerned. And frankly, I would tell you that you should say no. So that wraps up the 5. I said it was going to be 4, but I gave you 5. 5 interview red flags that you should look out for, okay? If you see any of these things in the interview process, they are red flags, and you should run and head for the hills. Run like the devil is chasing you, because he probably is, okay? So don't be so pressed, don't be so desperate that you're not paying attention to these flags when they appear. There are several others that I mentioned in my blog post, so make sure that you go to the link in the description and read the blog post in detail, especially if you are currently interviewing for jobs. You want to look at the blog post where I share what questions you should ask, and you also want to look at this blog post that tells you what are the red flags that you should look for, 10 interview red flags that you should look out for. I hope these tips have been helpful. I really wanted to spend some time this week talking to you guys about interviewing, because I know that people are, a lot of things are in flux and people are looking for jobs. And I really want you to not be making decisions that you end up with job remorse, right? And having taken a position and then being really remorseful about it. So I hope you found these tips helpful. You can tell me in the comments. Tell me some other red flags that you think are also applicable that I might mention. And I will also link the video that I made before about red flags as well in here. But I wanted to make these top of mind for you guys. I hope you enjoyed this little series about interviews this week. And for those of you who are in the community, I also dropped another video about interview strategies and tactics that I hope was also helpful. This is a little plug to say that if you would like to continue to get these kinds of tips, please join the AntiHR membership community. I will put a link in the description about how to join. And there I share a lot more information and strategies for workers. I also give a lot more information about how to navigate and exit discriminatory hostile work places. So if that is of interest to you and you want to get more in-depth information and access to more resources and tools, please join the AntiHR membership community. You can visit my website and you can check out the link in the description to learn more about how to become a member. It's only $12 a month for an annual membership. So thanks again for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please take a moment and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, comment, and share this video with a friend. But please do comment constructively. As always, HR is not your enemy, but they're definitely not your friend. But I am. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.